It was not one single project that made a huge difference in terms of our overall performance. We need to foster innovation in a very distributed way with a distributed set of partners. You can't do it all by yourselves. We had to partner with NGOs and other technology providers to be able to have us achieve it. And then where we think the next phase is to, again, challenge companies to accept the leadership necessity as we face this problem overall. And then, as others have said this morning, is stimulate governments to provide that policy framework in which that innovation can prosper as we go through this next phase. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I thought that's two very important elements for this discussion. From a business point of view, but not only prioritizing. I thought that was a very interesting point, as well as the role of leadership. Now, as you said, enabling the policy framework to reach these goals and to realize the full potential of what industry can deliver needs to be created. The policy framework will be very determining for what can be achieved. But also, I believe that it's very important that business is part of the discussions where the goals that will have to be largely achieved by industry are going to be set. So I would like to turn to Gert-Jan Koopman, who is from the European Commission Directorate General for Enterprise and Industry, thereby political decision maker and very important party to these discussions that are taking place in Bali. Gert-Jan.
Well, thank you very much, Teresa, and good morning to all of you. I'm going to focus a little bit on what we're doing concretely in Europe to address this untapped energy efficiency potential. I think today's presentations have been fascinating in that they have illustrated just how sizable this potential is and how significant the contribution can be to reducing CO2 emissions and at the same time stimulating innovation and thereby stimulating sustainable economic growth. Now, if that is so, what can we do concretely? Well, let me refer to an important tool we have developed in Europe, a policy tool, a European law, a European directive called the Energy Using Products Directive. That directive basically gives the Commission the possibility to set product standards for energy using products that essentially remove inefficient products from the market. And this directive is now being rolled out in respect of lighting, in respect of electric motors, and all these other important energy using products that are responsible for so many emissions. Now, the way we're approaching the use of this directive is, I think, a very interesting example of better regulation. We're doing that with business, with other stakeholders, through extensive studies. And these studies then lead to the determination of the point at which we cut the distribution curve on the market. In other words, the point where we start removing products from the market. Products that do not meet these ambitious standards cannot be sold in the future in the European market. So that is important. We reckon that this directive has the potential alone in the different product categories that we cover of improving energy efficiency by about 20%. So it is very, very significant indeed. But potentially, I would say, it could also have a much more significant implication globally, because these standards are standards applying to a market of about 500 million consumers in Europe. And we hope that by providing a reference point, this approach could also help other countries, other parts of the world, to reap these benefits as business aligns its production series to these standards. I would make one final comment in this respect, Teresa, which is that we've often talked about sectoral approaches, and I was very happy to see Professor Tanaka in his presentation refer to the potential of sectoral approaches. It seems to me that these technology benchmarks, which is really what we're setting through this approach, also have the potential going forward to play an important role in potential future global sectoral approaches. If we cut the inefficient products out of the market and we set at the same time ambitious benchmarks which can be incentivized through public procurement, which is what we want to do in Europe, can be incentivized by the intelligent use of taxes and fiscal incentives, then we open up a whole framework that can be taken forward internationally through global sectoral approaches. So we're addressing this problem. We're at the start of what I think is a very ambitious venture in Europe, and we hope to work with business and our international partners to roll this out internationally. Thanks.
Gert-Jan? There is one point, part of your policy that you did not mention, and that is all the work you are doing on the European Commission level on sustainable production and consumption. We heard here today that society support is extremely important to have, to tap all the potential, get these new technologies uptaken by society. So I would like to turn now to our civil society representative, Franz.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, Teresa, and hello to all of you. NRDC has worked for many years, over 20 years, on promoting energy efficiency in the United States, at the state level, at the federal level. And we recently participated in a similar study to the German study with McKinsey, which was released last week and showed that there was tremendous opportunity for energy efficiency in the United States at a net savings, and that there were, as we've all discussed, policy barriers to making that happen. So from the field on the ground, I'd just like to share with you some stories about why efficiency, when the data is so clearly in and the technology is so clearly available, why that really hasn't been adopted as a overarching goal to solving the climate problem. And I think there are many reasons for that. One reason is that although the industry knows what the technology options are, the public does not. That has been, there's been an effort to try to change that with things like labeling. The United States Energy Star labeling, other countries have different methods. But what happens is there are new products coming on the market all the time. And I think the best example is moving from appliances to electronics. In the appliance sector, there's been a tremendous effort to make the products much more efficient, and their standards at the state and federal level to make that happen. A very good example of that is refrigerators. Refrigerators now use 25% of the electricity than they used 30 years ago, and yet they're bigger and they're supplying more services to the customer. That didn't come about simply from the appliance manufacturer. That came about first in the state of California, adopting efficiency standards, updating those standards over time, and then finally efficiency standards for the refrigerator at the federal level, and updating those standards through the Department of Energy. It was a very labor-intensive process. It's actually taken 30 years to bring the refrigerator efficiency use down 75%. We can't afford 30 years for every single consumer product, and now we're moving into a period of very rapidly developing electronics. And I can assure you that the people who are going to buy flat-screen TVs at a very rapid rate have no idea what the energy demand of those products are. And again, we need to get into a labeling situation, set standards for each new product as it comes out. And in order to do that, the public policy officials have to really understand the opportunity of this sector of energy efficiency. And they need to understand it at every level, local, state, or provincial, depending on what part of the world you are, and national. And that requires a massive public education program, both of the grassroots and public policy officials. And I think that really has not been undertaken. Even in our work is largely with some state officials and in the utility sector. It's in the public service commissions and in the conversations with individual utilities. Until this opportunity really gets to be much more broadly known, it's not going to reach its potential. And I think that that's where organizations such as my own come in. And, you know, that's not true.